Have you ever wondered how artists like Prince, Jacob Collier, or Sia seem to have endless amounts of ideas? Perhaps you used to be creative at one time, but feel like your well of inspiration has run dry. Are you feeling blah and searching for your muse? Well, this episode is for you. Here is How to Cultivate Creativity. Hey, welcome to the Monique on the Mic podcast. I'm your host, Monique B. Thomas. This show is your go-to resource for professional and aspiring singers. Every Monday, join me for a mix of solo episodes and insightful interviews where I share real artist stories, practical strategies, and mindset shifts. Whether you're just starting out or are already on your journey, you'll find the tools you need to transform your vocal path and feel supported. I keep it real, I keep it fun, and it's always useful and up to date. Let's get into it. You might be feeling out of sorts. Adulting is hard, and our responsibilities often get us in a headspace that is way too serious and confined for any type of creativity. I completely understand that, and so let's look at a few ways that we can fix that. Point number 1, look for and develop ways to be creative outside of your main creative activity. So if you're a singer, maybe try painting. If you're a writer, pick up a guitar. If you're a dancer, learn how to prune Japanese bonsai. Now, I know that may seem silly, but it's important to allow yourself to do other things, try new things. So something that's without any sort of pressure. Point number 2, look for ways to be creative in your daily life. So this could be something like the way you wear your hair or hair color. 2 years ago, I dyed my hair purple, and then it was pink, and it was blue. It was all these different colors, and people were like, oh my goodness, I could never do that. And I'm talking to adults here, and I'm thinking, well, why couldn't you? So I asked, well, why couldn't you? Oh, my family would. And I'm thinking, well, you're an adult. You can actually do what you want unless your job forbids you to wear a certain hair color. I mean, especially if you're a woman, you could probably get by putting a wig on. But in any case, change your hair color or your hairstyle. The clothes you wear speak volumes about your creativity. I personally like to wear a lot of color, which is a big change for me because I had a period, even though I wasn't goth, I used to wear a lot of black. I guess it kind of matched my depression at that time, but as I got freer of depression, I began to want to wear color all the time. So I now wear huge earrings and lots of bright color, and it makes me feel good. Be creative in the way you sign your emails. It could be something as simple as that. I sign my emails Musically Monique, and it doesn't really mean much except that it does because, I feel like I'm a musical person, and so most of what I do is surrounded by music. So why not say Musically Monique? You can wear funny nail polish or makeup. I get creative with those things too. If you want, you can paint or draw, especially, and I mean especially if you stink at it. If you're bad at it, just allow yourself to do it. I mean, we all doodled, right, at some point. I think the important point here is that you can't expect your muse to show up in one specific area of your life if you're always blocking her out of all the other areas. You've got to let your muse be free, and eventually the inspiration that shows up in other areas will eventually show up where you want it. Point number 3, fill the well by going on an artist date or artist dates. Now, this idea came from Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way. It's a very well-known book. I'll put the link in the show notes. An artist date is you're taking yourself out, and it doesn't have to be expensive, but is a time in your week, every week, that's blocked out, it's planned out, and you're just by yourself. It could be as simple as going on a walk. It could be going to the flea market. It could be taking a painting class, but it doesn't even have to actually be a creative activity, but it is something where you're spending time with yourself doing things you don't typically do. And by that, you are filling what we call a well of inspiration. See, the inspiration that we need to be creative has to be filled regularly. If we're constantly, being overly serious and never doing anything that's fun, eventually, as we're creating, that well becomes empty. So filling that well on a regular basis means that when you need it to be creative, there's something to pull from. Point number 4, Get in touch with your inner child and be a little weird. Do the things that brought you pleasure as a kid. No pressure, just pure fun. The idea is just to let yourself be. Now, in the last year or two, my daughter asked for those, those adhesive eyes. They're like little sticky eyes that you can put and on something. And she's put a ton of these things around the house. So now in my house, I have all these different inanimate objects in my home, like pots and lamps that look like faces with funny expressions. And it's kind of nice because I look up and I see my lamp looking back at me. And I think it's fun and I think it's whimsical. Now, I could say, well, I bought all this nice stuff. I don't want eyes on them. But to be honest with you, I think we need a little bit of silliness in our day. And her silliness kind of rubbed off on me, her being free and whimsical and wanting that. I think she actually went into her school and started decorating different places in school. And, she took her silliness into school. And I think it was probably helpful for some people who are a little too serious there as well. Another thing you can do to help you get in touch with your inner child is simply spend time with children and watch how they play. Children can turn anything into fun. And in fact, they do it best when they're bored and when they have minimal materials or resources. So, kids will take a cardboard box and they'll turn it into a castle, or they'll turn it into a truck or whatever, because what really is driving it here is their imagination. And I think this is a wonderful lesson for us adults thinking we don't have the money to be creative. All it takes is a little bit of imagination and just allowing yourself to do things. And sometimes boredom helps as well. Now, as you start to get in touch with your inner child, people might think you're a little weird for allowing yourself to be like a kid. And it might seem weird for an adult, but you know what? Be weird. The great thing about being an artist is that people actually expect us to be weird. So I think that's okay. And the truth is, those that are judging you for being a little strange, a little weird, they're usually just jealous of how you're free, just how free you are. And to further this thought, you might want to check out Sir Robinson's TED Talk about how children have creativity taught out of them. I'll put that in the show notes, but it's interesting to know that, you're never going to meet a child that's not creative unless this child is not allowed to play. All children are born creative. And so if we let them be, then they tend to stay creative. I guess that means I've stayed a child, but I'm okay with that. Point number 5, look for beauty everywhere. We live fast-paced lives, and we often literally don't take the time to stop and smell the roses. I actually like to take the time and look at flowers. I take notice of unusually vibrant colors of flowers, and I'll take pictures and I'll even do videos of them because I just like them. I just think it's interesting how much nature can show us the beauty that's just naturally there, Nobody particular planned it, but nature just came up with it. And so it can be very inspiring for other things. I also take the time sometimes to look in clouds and find familiar objects in them. That's just me. Make being creative, this is point number 6, make being creative an obligation without goals. So in other words, again, do that artist date. That's one great way to do it. But you're just basically making sure that you set aside time, that it's an obligation to set aside time to play. And this play has no goal other than just play. So you're not measuring, you're not judging, you're just taking time to be and to explore and not worry about bills and all this other stuff that we tend to worry about and that tends to block us up. I think the main takeaways are you've got to allow yourself to be creative without any judgment or any goals attached. Just do the thing and do it regularly because it's like a muscle, so it needs to be done regularly. Set aside some time each week for all kinds of creative activities. When's the last time you danced in the middle of your living room like nobody was watching? Get in touch with your inner child and learn to play again. This is so, so important. Stop being so serious. Additionally, those of you that know me know that I'm a huge fan of journaling as a way to unlock things and to stay unblocked. So you might want to try this. Get a piece of paper and write the following question. What fun activity would I do if age, sex, race, Religion, body type, or shape were not an issue. Spend some time on this question, and when you get your answer, I urge you to go do that thing or things. It might be several things. Life is way too short to live the way someone else thinks you should live. I want you to remember one phrase: creatures create. You were literally born to do this. If you've enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're really liking what I'm throwing down, you'll love my Mike Masters newsletter. For more information on how to work with me and to sign up for the newsletter, visit www.moniquebthomas.com or check the show notes. Musically, Monique.